Today, I'm reviewing Samsung's Galaxy S21 Plus. This is the phone in the middle of the three devices Samsung launched, and it's $200 cheaper than the launch price of the previous S20 Plus. So, what did you lose so that Samsung could bring you this phone with pandemic pricing? Well, we'll talk about all that you are getting and answer that question as well. Let's go. I'm reviewing the Phantom Black colorway of the phone, which is also available in Phantom Violet, like these Galaxy Buds Pro I have here, and it's also available in Phantom Silver. This Phantom Black version has a beautiful matte finish, which resists fingerprints quite well. During Unpacked, Samsung went into quite a bit of detail on the painstaking measures they went through to create this colorway, and it shows in person. What doesn't show as much in person is that large camera bump from last year's S20 Plus. Not that I was one of those complaining about that, because I wasn't, but this year's Galaxy devices all received a redesign which features a camera module that is integrated into the band of the phone. It just flows better, minimizing the perceived size of the camera module, and let's be real here, most of you are going to put a case on the phone anyway, which is going to make the camera hump a non-issue. In hand, the phone feels weighty in a good way. It feels substantial and well built. Looking around the phone, cosmetically, you're going to get all the buttons on the right side of the phone. There you'll find the power button, and above that, the volume rocker. The bottom of the phone is where you'll find one half of the stereo speakers, the USB-C port, and the SIM tray, which is missing something, but we'll get to that in a bit. The front of the phone is where you'll find a bright, vibrant 6.7-inch AMOLED display with a dynamic refresh rate which goes from 48 to 120 Hertz depending on what you're doing with the phone. The phone's display resolution on the Plus this year is actually lower than last year's, coming in at 2400 by 1080, or what is generally called Full HD Plus. At the top of the display, you'll find a hole-punch camera and the other half of the stereo speakers. At the bottom of the screen, or close to it, is the in-display ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. It's larger this year than last, but I still ended up registering two fingers that I used to log in with twice for faster, more consistent unlocks. Now, we talked about that beautiful Phantom Black matte black finish on the back, but what lies below that beauty is a larger than last year 4800 milliamp hour battery, which got me almost 8 hours screen on time and 14 hours of use in my artificial battery testing. In my real world testing, which includes streaming Tidal or listening to streamed podcasts during my commute, heavy social media and email use, and minimal calling, I was easily getting all day use from the time I get up ahead of the sun to the time I go to bed. Not just work day all day, but actual all day and through the night. That battery charges up pretty fast thanks to 25-watt charging or 15-watt wireless charging. Although you'll have to figure that part out on your own, as there is no charger in the box. And while we're talking about what's inside the phone, you're going to get 8 gigabytes of RAM and options for either 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes of storage on this model. This year, powering this 5G phone is Qualcomm's Snapdragon 888 processor with support for US 5G bands, including millimeter wave. Jumping back to the surface of the back of the phone, you're going to get 3 cameras out of the module on the S21 Plus, a 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and 64 megapixel telephoto lens. As expected, the cameras do take solid photos. You aren't going to be disappointed. The $200 difference in last year's pricing definitely won't be felt by most people in terms of the camera. As you can see in these flower captures, the wide and telephoto lenses handle harsh colors with aplomb. The colors don't cause blurring and still have solid separation between the different flowers, except in the harshest conditions. In this photo of bougainvilleas in harsh sunlight, there's still really good detail and the flowers could be much more washed out. The phone also handles low light well, as you can see here. These buildings are sharp when you blow them up, as are the lights, which the camera didn't present a great deal of flaring with. Backing up a bit, I just wanted to take a second to talk about the front-facing camera. I'm gonna have a versus video with the iPhone 12 Pro to get into this in greater detail, but I was thoroughly impressed with the artificial intelligence in this front facer. In this photo, with the sun beating in my face, the highlights were handled well, but the edge detection was magnificent. The only other phone I've used recently which produced front-facing images this sharp with as beautiful a bokeh is Google's Pixel. And let's take a quick look at the video that the phone produces. This is shot in the same aspect ratio and frame rate that I produce these videos in, 4K 24 frames. The telephoto and wide-angle lenses both utilize optical image stabilization, so the videos do come out pretty solid in terms of their ability to mitigate shaking. And this time around, you get some new modes which make shooting creative videos easier. Director's View allows you to see and cut between the multiple angles, and Vlogger's View allows you to record your back and front cameras simultaneously. These are actually useful features in practice, more than just gimmicks like space zoom. I actually really like the space zoom feature, even though it's only 30x hybrid, unlike the 100x hybrid of the 21 Ultra. Even with 30x though, here's what I was able to capture. Here's a crane with the standard wide lens, then 10x, 20x, and finally 30x. This year, the space zoom is improved with AI, which actually makes capturing those details at 30x much easier by lessening handshake when you use the crosshairs or camera shake at that level of magnification. But I'm guessing that what you really want to know is how does all of that compare to last year's S20 Plus? Is that $200 difference magnified? For most people, I don't think so. The battery is bigger this year, so that's a good start. You get a faster processor even though you get less RAM than last year, so I think ultimately that's going to be a wash. The screen last year had a higher resolution and the same refresh rate, and though I don't have the S20 Plus in hand right now, it had a higher pixel density to go along with that high refresh rate, which generally makes for a sharper display. I'm sure if I had them side by side, the difference would be noticeable, but what I've also noticed is that most of the average buying public isn't generally too keen on noticing display differences unless they are stark differences, which is why many phone manufacturers are actually going with Full HD Plus on their displays today anyway. Last, this year's S20 Plus does not come with removable storage. That SIM tray I mentioned earlier in the review is just that, a SIM tray. So as I always advise, if you're going to buy the S20 Plus, buy the version with the most storage you can afford. So that's a choice between 128 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes. Ultimately, this year's S21 does tick all the right boxes for those looking for an upgrade, despite the compromise in screen quality. If costs are going to come down, the question must be asked, what do you really need in a phone? In addition, it gives people with smaller disposable income or for whom having bleeding edge really isn't a priority, a great option for a phone that they can keep for years while allowing Samsung to differentiate their product lines as they work to bring something to market for everyone at every price range that will appeal to both Luddites and tech enthusiasts alike. So ultimately, I think this is going to be the choice for most people out of the three phones that Samsung announced at Unpacked. Hey, I'm Tshaka Armstrong. If there are any questions about the S21 5G that I didn't answer in the video, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them. We don't take it lightly that you spent your time watching here with us at reviews.org. I will catch you on the next video.